Merry Christmas, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the program. I am Nifemi Okuntoye. On behalf of everyone here, we wish you a great one this season. All the joys and blessings, that come with the season. We're also hoping that you're going to take some time out today to reach out to those in your space who cannot celebrate Christmas themselves. Let's begin with Mr. President's message this year. It's his first Christmas since he became president, and President Tinubu, we understand, has again raised the hopes of Nigerians, saying that they should expect a new dawn of prosperity, peace, and progress soon. He did mention that he understands what these circumstances and situations are. His assurance is coming amidst the biting cost of living crisis, which is believed to be largely triggered by his administration's twin policies of petrol subsidy removal and currency floating. He's now pledged his administration's commitment to implementing measures to ease the burden on the most vulnerable, address current hardship, and alleviate the suffering of all Nigerians. According to him, in the spirit of Christmas, reflecting the best of Christ, let us all endeavor to extend the warm embrace of kindness to those around us who need it. He noted that this year has been a time of transformation and relentless change in the country, and is aware that the necessary reforms being implemented to achieve a more prosperous, peaceful nation for all had imposed unique sacrifices. And he goes on to say, as Nigerians navigate this transition to stability, prosperity, and renewed hope, is urging everyone to once more hold fast and be rest assured of his commitment to govern with vision, dedication, and empathy. So what's Christmas like where you are? It doesn't feel like Christmas in faraway Bethlehem, where Jesus was born thousands of years ago, and that's what we're talking about this morning. The Church of Nativity, built right on the spot where it's believed that Mary gave birth to Jesus, is usually busy with visitors at this time of the year, but not in 2023. Christmas has been cancelled this year in Bethlehem, largely because of the ongoing war in Gaza. And Gaza is only about 73 kilometers away from Bethlehem. So you understand that quite a number of people in Bethlehem have strong ties, have links to Gaza through family, whether they're Muslim or Christian Palestinians. And they say the cancellation of the festivity this year is a sign of mourning for the thousands of civilians that have now been killed in Gaza. There's also the economic implication. Bethlehem is mainly a tourist place where people troop in for holidays like these. But not many people want to go to Bethlehem now. They don't want to be caught, in the way of fire with the ongoing war in that part. Let's bring you an update of the crisis in that part of the Middle East.
Escalation of hostilities continues in the Israel-Hamas war since the insurgency of October 7th. The wake of October 7th, 2023 could never have been imagined by both the state of Israel and Palestine, especially Gaza, which is now almost a desolate land. The offensive by Hamas on the 7th of October led to the death of about 1,300 Israelis. Records put the death toll as the third worst terrorist attack so far. Hamas leader says the assault was a result of what he called the desecration of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Accusations and counter-accusations from both sides on the cause of the attack. But it is certainly not unrelated to the long-standing political and territorial dispute between the two states.
This is shocking if you did not know that since 1967 till today, more than 750,000 Palestinians was jailed in the Israeli prisons. It is very shocking that no one is knowing that since the October 7th till today, more than 2,600 Palestinians was arrested from West Bank since today, before October 7th, more than 5,500 Palestinians was in the Israeli, serving in the Israeli jail.
Israel sees the provocation by Hamas as a terrorist attack to the magnitude of US 9/11 and consequently declared a war to end Hamas.
We are going to wage a war against Hamas now. And I want to be very clear. War is a dirty game. And war is a terrible thing. But sometimes it's necessary. This is one of those cases where it's necessary and where it's justified. We will do everything we can to avoid civilian casualties. We will do everything we can.
Beyond the trade of words, the death of civilians, especially women and children, has raised wide condemnation on Israel's strategy of fighting Hamas. As experts say, Hamas is an institution and may be impossible to end them.
The UN, different bodies establish an inquiry commission to investigate what is happening. It is pure textbook genocide. What is happening right now is a genocide. A textbook genocide. Period. One word, loud and clear.
About 2 million people are already displaced with inadequate shelter and sanitation options. Hospitals are almost non-functional in Gaza, leaving the wounded to not just fate, but untold pain and suffering. Israel mourns lives lost and many kidnapped. Gaza struggling under the ruins and rubble of not just collapsed buildings, but the weight of hunger, poverty, pains, diseases, sicknesses, lack of schools, hospitals, hygiene and sanitation. The humanitarian crisis caused by the war has stirred reaction from the global community as efforts to broker a ceasefire has not been successful. Nigeria, China and many countries in Africa and the Middle East are calling for a ceasefire. But Israel has enjoyed unflinching support from the United States, United Kingdom and the European Union. Even though there have been pro-Palestine protests in many of these countries, many others have also questioned the powers of the United Nations and its inability to check what they refer to as excesses of Israel. Considering how long it actually took the United Nations Security Council to reach a resolution on humanitarian aid to Gaza, says a lot. The United Nations Security Council resolution has come under criticism as not enough to meet the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. As the world works to ensure there's an end to this crisis, one can only hope for a swift and quick resolution in order to ensure an end to the loss of lives and an ease in the suffering of the people. Moya Thomas, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, they say Christmas this year is a perfect Palestinian story. A family that left Nazareth because they were forced by the Roman rule, the Roman government there from perhaps the east or southern Palestine, and that was how Jesus was born, to a displaced family. Remember, the Bible says there was no room in the inn, and that was why he was born in the manger. We're looking at what this means globally for the Christian faith, as well as what the reaction of the world should be. Over 20,000 people have now been killed in the Gaza Strip since the commencement of the war after Hamas attack on Israel on the 7th of October. Over 8,000 children, in that mix. We'll be back with more after this break. Do stay with us. Merry Christmas again, everyone. Thank you for staying the course on the program. Let's talk about just how unique this Christmas is with the development in faraway Gaza. Reverend John Gomez, Senior Pastor, God's Kingdom Christian Center, is a former senatorial candidate for Lagos East. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, and Merry Christmas to you.
Same to you too.
I was just talking about how this year's Christmas is a perfect Jesus story of how, a displaced family left a region of Jerusalem because of the Roman Empire invasion at the time. And that was how Jesus was born in a manger, because they couldn't find a room for him. King Herod also ordered the massacre of some children at the time. We understand that 8,000 children have now been killed in the ongoing war in Gaza. Are you able to draw a parallel between, the Roman Empire invasion 2,000 years ago and what we're currently experiencing in Palestine?
Thank you, and Merry Christmas, fellow Nigerians. I wish Nigerians the best of Christmas, because while we're talking about war in Gaza between the Palestinians and the Hamas and the Israelis, here in Nigeria we're at peace, so we must be grateful to God. Back to your question, yes, there's great similarity, and if you look at history, incidentally I'm a student of history, religious history, you discover that as at the time Jesus was born, and that is Christmas, there was a little bit of a festivity, because it was a festivity that made a lot of people go to Bethlehem. So the hotels were all filled up. Some historical students say it was a war, but no, it was the festival that took people to Bethlehem. So because of the massive movement of people for the celebration, as at that time, there was no hotel for Jesus' mother and father Joseph to, they have no choice than to give birth to him in a manger. But having said that, you discover that there's a similarity, because as at that time too, the Roman Empire was at war, a mini war with the Jews. So, and Herod, hearing that a king is to be born or is being born that will so-called replace him, displace him, he felt bad and he wanted, that child at all costs to be killed. So the similarity there is that there was some, I call it political upheaval, because Herod felt that a king is coming to displace him. Now we look at what's happening at the moment in Gaza. Not only in Gaza, also it's West Bank, because Jesus was born in Bethlehem, and Bethlehem is in West Bank.
Indeed.
So incidentally, something similar to about 2,000 years ago is playing off again.
Very, very interesting way you put it, particularly when you consider the fact that, one pastor in Bethlehem recently mentioned that if Jesus was born at this time, he probably will be in a rubble in, in Palestine. But I also know that this conflict has taken some sort of a religious dimension outside the Middle East. There are Christians who would favor Israel, and there are Muslims who would take sides with Gaza. But in Israel, as we speak, there are even more Muslims than Christians. They practice more of Judaism.
In that place.
And there's also a little population, a small population of Christians in Gaza. What do you think should be the response, from the religious bodies, especially on Christmas Day?
Okay.
In this regard?
I want to say this very clear. In the first place, I've said it in several media in the last 2 months, 2 months now, when the conflict started, that this conflict should not be seen as a religious war. The reason is that Israeli people practice their Judaism. They practice Judaism. They don't practice Christianity. For example, in Gaza, there are only about 1,000 Christians in Gaza. Only 1,000 Christians. Go and check. Only about 1,000 Christians in Gaza. There are more of Muslim community. And the few Jewish people who are in Gaza, they are practicing Judaism, not even Christianity. It will suffice you to note that if you go to the Jewish communities or enclave, and you talk about Jesus as the Savior, they will laugh at you and say, you are very stupid, you are worshiping our brother Jesus, because they are not Christians. They are more of Judaism. Only a minute number of population of the Israelis are Christians. So in the first place, let's move our mindset that it is a religious war. It isn't Christian or Muslim war. That's number one. Then number two, you realize that even at West Bank, the population of Christians are only 50,000. Others are Muslims and also Jews and some people who migrated to that area who are practicing different philosophical beliefs. So the fact remains that at this point in time, while we get religion out of it, we look at the historical fact of why there's a conflict in that particular place. Because so many people in the world says it is because of the occupation. It's not because of maybe Christians or Muslim or Judaism or any other Hinduism or any other practice, a religious practice. It's just about the occupation. It's just about who owns the land.
The land.
Yes.
And that's very interesting history because, Bible times, there are nations like Israel and Judah and what have you. But even in Bible time, we found out that with the Roman invasion, Jews became a minority.
Sure.
And then in the Middle Ages, these areas were taken over, by Islamic nations and what have you. The creation of Israel in
the Arab nations.
Sorry, the Arab nations,
yes.
so to speak. Well, they practice mostly
they practice Islam.
And then the establishment of Israel, in 1947, is where Hamas takes its bitterness from. But let us talk about how you think united the world has been to bring peace back to this region. The United Nations Security Council recently, voted in favor of what they call an humanitarian ceasefire.
Okay.
And of course, the two-state solution, we're going to talk about that too. But what do you think, because there are concerns about the inability of the Security Council to condemn the Hamas invasion of the 7th of October. How critical is that in all of this?
That's one of the things that we have to look at. I just recently, a few days ago, the former American President Barack Obama gave a speech about that. In the first place, he is not happy that the conflict is going on and thousands of souls are being wasted who have not, these deaths, these people that are wasted, these lives that are wasted, have nothing to do with Hamas either. These are innocent Palestinians who are dying because of the October invasion by Hamas. So in the first place, like I quote Barack Obama, there was no reason at first why that invasion should take place. And the world is not looking at that. Yes, there have been a conflict of 1 or 2 days over the years because of the Israeli trying to get at Hamas. But that it was not enough for Hamas to have woken up and massacred souls, for which Israel decided to retaliate.
Well, the narrative has been, the occupation of what is considered a traditional land by Israel. You talked about how West Bank is occupied. Even Bethlehem is currently occupied by Israel. They say Gaza is like an open prison. So those who support Hamas will also, draw your attention back to decades of impunity by the Israeli invasion. But whether or not the killing of 1,200 is enough, to pay back what has happened in the past years is completely different. But do you think that world leaders will be able to isolate the October 7th incident, as against what has happened in the past 75 years?
Yeah, they should have. Let me say something. The invasion of Israel by the Hamas, which precipitated all of these conflict, deaths, and the global cry, should be seen this way. In the first place, you realize that the Israeli claim that the land was given to them by God. And anyway, there's a historical fact of that. Then because of the disobedience of the same Israeli people to their God, God gave them out for, other nations came and took them away into captivity. And because of these wars and this disobedience of Israel, they have been dislocated. Some went to Germany, you remember the Holocaust. They are scattered around the entire world. So they lost their land. They lost the so-called land that God gave to them. And then other tribes invaded the land and have been occupying the land for many years. But historically, the Bible also said that at a time to come in the future, they will go back to their land, which happened in 1947-48. But don't forget, before they came back, there were other tribes, Arab tribes, majorly Arabs, who are Muslim, who have been occupying this land. So the United Nations, the Security Council, to me, they are a bit divided. Because they have the history, and they have the history of what happened and what still happened. So they are a bit divided. And I think what the world is looking at is, let's stop killing of innocent people. Let's have a ceasefire. and let's go back to the drawing table and talk.
Exactly the point that, we're talking about ceasefire, but are we also considering the root causes? There have been talks about the two-state solution and whether or not Israel and Palestine, really believe in the ability of both nations to coexist together. But we're going to continue that conversation. Let's take a short break. When we return, we'll also open the phone lines for your comments. Stay with us, everyone. Reverend John Kome is our guest on the show today. Thank you so much for staying the course on the program.
Pleasure.
Let's talk about what you think. Is there hope and sides for Israel and Palestine, particularly where you consider the rich history of the crisis and what needs to be done? The need for both nations to start reconsidering coexisting. Is that a possibility in the new year?
There is. Absolutely. You see, the Palestinians and the Israelis, they have been coexisting. They have been coexisting for a very long time. And I remember some nations like the United States of America has been trying over the years to see if there can be two-state solutions inside, which I think there's possibility. It could be done. But the precipitation of this war will make things a little bit difficult. If not for the killings that is going on, the innocent killing, people dying, children dying, women dying, part of Europe and the West, they are behind Israel. While so many other countries, including some African countries also, they are behind Palestine. I believe they are behind Palestine because of the innocent killing. Every day we see innocent people dying, especially children dying. Children who have no history of what is going on. They don't know what is going on over the years, but they are the victim, the massive victim of this conflict. So I think that Israel said no going back until Hamas gave up. And I think if Hamas could be called back to senses and say, look, our people are dying, your people are dying, let's see what we can do, I think there will be peace at sight.
Yeah, that's the question of, whether or not what Israel is also asking for is achievable. The possibility of Hamas surrendering to Israel is something that perhaps will take a miracle to happen when you consider the history behind it all. And, both parties claiming that this is our land, and then they are making reference to the injustices that have happened, in that part of the country, largely, on the part of Palestine. But what do you think happens going forward, particularly when you consider the position of United States in all of this? The U.S. support for Israel is based on the two-state solution. Well, the last time we heard from Benjamin Netanyahu, who's prime minister, it doesn't seem that the Israeli elite seem to buy the idea of them coexisting with the other country.
Yes, from, like you said, Benjamin Netanyahu and the elites. But let's look at the common man in Israel. Don't forget, these people, they coexist. When you go to Jerusalem, when you go to Tel Aviv, these two group of people, religious people, they coexist. They work together. Even in offices, they work together. Therefore, we should look beyond just the elite. I would want the entire world, the global community, to look at the possibility of impressing it on Hamas to step down. I don't think that is going to be a defeat anyway. We're talking about, don't forget, there is a prophetic undertone in these happenings in Gaza and the West Bank. Whether the world come together to stand on one ground, you cannot beat the Creator. The internal purpose of God must be fulfilled. God said this is how it's going to be. Let me tell you what is going on here has prophetic undertone. There's a prophecy in the holy books, both holy books. There's a prophetic statement that such and such will happen at such time in the history of creation. So whether we like it or not, whether we take sides or not, what God says is exactly what will happen.
Interesting way you've put it, but you begin to wonder if the world is just paying lip service to the issue of humanitarian
Of course.
crisis. Because
Of course.
if 20,000 people have died in the region, I mean, one would think that the whole world should be speaking with one language in the direction of peace and ensuring that we provide some succor, especially for those who have been terribly affected by this crisis. But let's talk about how you think this impacts on Christmas this year. Is it a solemn Christmas globally based on the fact that Christmas has even been cancelled in Bethlehem,
Yeah.
where Jesus was born,
Yeah.
largely because of the crisis in Gaza? And many of the people who live there have a close relationship with those who are now suffering in that region.
Yes, let me just go back to that issue briefly before I come to the Christmas. You see, we say there are nations who are complicit in this conflict, in this crisis in the Middle East. The crisis is going beyond just Palestine. It's going to other nations in that region. Lebanon, the Hezbollah are started fighting. I listened to the president of Turkey,
Okay.
and he said he's going to, if something's not done as soon as possible, he's going to invade Israel. Syria is there, Jordan is there, Egypt is watching also, because don't forget, the humanitarian problems is affecting Egypt more.
Indeed.
Egypt is receiving more people. Sometimes they even close their border not to receive people. So let's go beyond just the nations surrounding the Israel and Palestine. And one thing I want to mention is this: when the conflict started initially, I was asking myself, why is it that Abbas, the PLO, remember, Hamas is just a tiny population of Palestine. Some people say they are terrorist organization, which the world say no, they are not a terrorist organization, but it's just a minute population of the Palestine. When the war started, I listened carefully. I was watching Abbas. Why is he not speaking? Is he happy that, has Hamas been a threat to his administration? But this issue, I don't want us to go into it today, but it's an issue we have to look at, some of that time, because it's just, if you don't mind, of recent that Abbas started shouting, wow, but initially he was silent. I would love to know why was this silence?
Just a minute, let's take David's call from Kafanchan. Hi, David. Merry Christmas. Oh, Chidi. Chidi, please go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning, Nifemi. Compliments of the season.
Wish you the same.
And good morning to your guests.
Good morning. Happy Christmas.
As a matter of fact, the current problem in Gaza and Israel has really impacted so negatively on this year's Christmas. Why it is so is because the fact remains that Christ, who is the reason for this very season, was given birth to in Bethlehem. And if the world must enjoy a peaceful and a conducive Christmas, I do not think that what is happening in Gaza and Israel should be happening. Therefore, in my own humble submission, I would wish that the world leaders will come together, synergize their efforts, and do whatever that is needful to bring peace and stability in these places, because there is no how they can live without intermingling with each other. May God bless Nigeria. May God bless the entire world, particularly the Christian community, as they celebrate Christmas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chidi, for your contribution. Talking about the Christian community, how concerned do you think churches have shown to the development in that part? Because Christians usually would, claim Israeli heritage, by faith. Are there concerns? Are there prayers going on? Are there also, do you think that the Christian community is also being enlightened about the importance of peace and also being educated on the reality of what's happening there?
Sure, absolutely. The Christian community all over the world, including Nigeria, will be praying for peace in the region. And not just only in Gaza and West Bank and Israel, we're praying for peace in the entire region, because if that region is devastated, it becomes a global problem. Even before, the Israeli-Palestinian war came up, there was a war between, and there's still a war between Russia and Ukraine that impacted negatively on the economies of so many other countries. And now Israel also is a country giving a lot of whatever they have to the entire world. Remember, Israel is an agric nation, and a lot of foods also come from Israel. So with the war, it's affecting the entire world, including Christians and Muslims and non-traditional religion or whatever philosophical beliefs. But you see, what we have to realize here is that prayer is needed, and prayer is ongoing. Whereas we are looking for political solution, we should also be looking for a spiritual solution, because both Christians and Muslims, Jews, Hindus, and whatever, it's God that created us, and they all claim to be worshiping God. So all of us, irrespective of your beliefs, let's cry to the Creator for peace.
Chukwudi has called in from Ebonyi. Merry Christmas, Chukwudi. Chukwudi, are you there? We'll probably get back to that call. So how do you marry the place of praying and then the place of prophecy? Because I've also heard many say that there are scriptural injunctions that towards the end of time, we're going to hear more of wars and crises of this nature. So can you pray prophecy not to be fulfilled, or there is a misinterpretation taking place somewhere in between?
Okay. You can't pray of prophecy. What God says will exist or will be, will be. Nonetheless, what if what is happening now is not timely? Because sometimes we can misinterpret God. God's time is not our time. God says, my ways are not your ways. So sometimes we can misinterpret God's calendar, God's internal calendar. So whether it is God's calendar or not, let us call upon God. God, is it your will? If it's your will, look at what is going on. Don't forget, you see, as a student of theology, we're told that the Antichrist will come. What will bring about the Antichrist? Because the world will have no peace. The entire world will be looking for peace, peace, peace. When everybody's crying for peace, the Antichrist will now emerge to promise peace. And it's going to bring momentous peace. Listen, I didn't want to go to history today. When I read history years back, I taught history, Christian history, theological history of the Christian faith. And I told people years back, some 32 years ago, I was a bit younger then, that there's going to come up a war between Gog and Magog, which is scriptural. And when you look at Gog, in historical map, it was, and it is, Russia. And that Russia is going to fight with a nation that came out of it. And the country they call America in the Bible was called a country with mixed tongue and mixed culture. There was no America in the Bible then. There was no Russia. There was Gog as Russia. And there was a country called a country with mixed tongues. That is the American, the American Jews, the American Nigeria, American Ghana. That this country, America, will, with the West, are going to stand on one side. Countries like China, North Korea, will stand with
Russia.
With Russia.
Just hold that thought a minute. Let's take a quick call from Tijani. Tijani has called in from Lagos. Hi, Tijani, are you there? Tijani, are you there?
Hello, I'm there.
Yes, please go ahead with the contribution.
Hello?
I can hear you clearly. Go ahead with the contribution. All right, so when you're calling in, try to turn down the volume of your TV so we can hear you from here. So you're saying that there's a scriptural antecedent to what's happening between Russia and America.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that in the midst of this Russia, Ukraine, and the world taking side, another conflict will emerge from the Middle East. And that the people of God shall be involved. And who are these people of God? The Israelis. So I saw this and I taught this many years ago, but I never believed in my lifetime it will
But
happen.
are you saying that people in Palestine are not people of God, are not children of God? Do you think God will sit in heaven and look down and take side in this conflict?
No, God will never take side in any conflict. We are all children of God. We are all created by God. But biblically, God said, Israel, the Jewish, they are his people. He chose them. And there's nothing anybody can do. He called them my people. That doesn't make Nigerians or Americans not God. We are all God's people. We are all created by God. But we don't know why God decided to choose that nation by himself. And you and I agree, even our Muslim brothers all agree that these people, they have been enjoying God's benevolence over the years.
Do you see Nigeria as a country or as a nation play a role in any of this?
No. Nigerians should not play any role although I saw the other time, not quite long ago, the Muslim communities or countries, they met in Saudi Arabia. I think about 5 countries were chosen to go and mediate, and Nigeria was one of them. So with that, I think Nigeria too is trying to come in through the Islamic organization to mediate in that. I wouldn't know why Nigeria have to go to that. I wouldn't know if we are a member of the Islamic organization. I wouldn't know anyway, but I think Nigeria was among those 5 nations, Islamic nations, that were called or choosing to go and mediate in this conflict.
It's hard to have this conversation without, the religious undertone. Do you agree that it's important that we move away from that if this is going to be resolved at all, particularly when you consider, the interest of the international community?
And that's why I said Nigeria shouldn't get involved at all, because Nigerian state, we are made up of Christians and Muslim population or communities. So I think we should just be, as it is anyway, let's watch and pray. Let the Christian pray for peace, let the Muslim pray for peace, and let other traditional religion, let everyone pray for the peace of Israel and of the conflict.
Right. Samson has called in from Ede. Good morning, Samson.
Good morning, sir.
Merry Christmas. Go ahead with your contribution.
Fine, sir. We actually got to talk about this. Can you hear me?
Very clearly. Go ahead, please.
The prophecy has already proclaimed all these things that are going to happen. God himself has told us already that these things are going to happen. Whatever God says will surely happen. Okay? And also, this Christmas shouldn't stop our celebration, because we are celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ himself. Okay?
Indeed. Thank you, Samson, for your contribution. So Christmas has been cancelled in Bethlehem. You want to say something?
Yes, like our friend from Edes rightly said, Christmas should be cancelled. No, Christmas has not been cancelled. It's only been cancelled in Bethlehem because of the conflict going on.
Exactly the point I wanted to make, that
Yes.
Christmas is not cancelled here
Not cancelled
in
anywhere in the
Nigeria.
world.
Obviously, people are still buying fowls and hanging out and doing all of that. But it's also happening at a very critical time in our nation's history, where people are concerned about the economic stability. The prices of commodities have gone high. The new government is putting in place some critical changes that the president himself on Sunday acknowledged has a great impact on the pocket of the average Nigerian. Yeah. How important is this? What message is there on a Christmas day for Nigerians at a time like this?
Christmas is not only for the Christian community. Christmas is for the whole world. It will suffice you to know that even our Christian brothers, our Muslim brothers, they also celebrate the birth of Jesus. All over, globally, they acknowledge that Jesus was born. Someday, they said a prophet, more than a prophet, was born. So it's not, the celebration is global. It's not just only for the Christian communities around the world. And let's make it clear, Christmas is not cancelled anywhere in the world. Christmas is going on everywhere in the world. But back home in Nigeria here, Christmas is going on. I came out today. You invited me here today. I saw Christmas trees everywhere. Everywhere there are Christmas, festivities going on here and there. Like you said, in Nigeria, it's a little bit tough now economically because of the difficulties our economy is going at the moment. And again, I just want to say thank you, Mr. President, for one or two interventions, which I think also is not going well with as the Mr. President intended it, because I remember I just laughed at it a few days ago. The president said, okay, wherever you're going to celebrate Christmas, 50%, but it's not being carried out by Nigerians.
Just hold that thought. Alim has called in from Abuja. Good morning, Alim. Good morning, are you there? Alim.
Yes, I'm here.
Aliu, please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm hearing you. Hello, I am here. Hello. Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah. The visitor in your studio, I believe that his analysis is somehow sentimental. He's aware of several, attack on Palestine. Several attack and killings that have gone in Palestine. But the Hamas attack recently is now taken as something else, as if the Hamas just wake up all of a sudden and attack Israel. There are several attacks that Israel has caused in Palestine, and they have killed a lot of people. Not today. We all know this history. We should not be sentimental about it. I feel that your visitor is not saying the truth. You understand? It's sentimental. He's not saying the truth. So how could he call Israel, a people of God? So the other set of people are not people of God. There are no people, human being on this world. Every human being in this world is created by God. Everybody is people of God. Nobody is not people of God. So people should not just because they have the monopoly of weapons and be attacking and be causing mayhem on other people. Please let your visitor.
I think you made your point very clearly, Aliu. Thank you for your contribution. He kind of disagrees with you on the part of Colin, and I understand his point of view. We had that conversation earlier
yes,
about the need to drive this conversation outside the religious notes. But let me have your final comments, as we wrap up. What would be your message at this time?
Okay, Braliu, if you listen to me very carefully, when I started, I did say that the world, including me and you, were not happy with the killings going on. I even went to talk about the children, innocent children, women who are being killed, and the world is not happy about it. Aliu, I said that from the beginning, and I share my sentiment with the entire world because we are not happy children are being killed. That you have to know. And then I want to say here again that as we wrap up, that today is Christmas. And like I said, yes, I did say that the people, God said Israelis are his people, and nothing we can do about it. But we too, we are people of God all over the world. We are people. God created every one of us. Satan did not create us. We didn't metamorphose from nowhere. We are all people of God. We are all children of God. God loved the whole world that he gave his only begotten son, whom we are celebrating today. So we are all people of God. Nonetheless, if God says that he chose his people as Israeli as a special people to him, there's nothing anybody can do, my brother. As we celebrate Christmas today, I want to preach love, peace, coexistence. You see, we cannot do without each other. We just have to make sure that whether in the Palestine, in that region, or in Nigeria, let's live together. I like Nigeria. I love this country. Do you know, sir, here in Lagos, today now, I'm going to bring food for my Muslim brothers. Salah, they give me food on Salah day. We coexist in this part of the world. Nigeria is a beautiful country where the Muslims love the Christian love the Muslims. We coexist. We love each other. We sacrifice. Jesus Christ taught us sacrifice. He taught us love. So I want to appeal to Nigerians. All right. Let us love one another. And I want the whole world to love one another. There should be no killing anymore. Let's look for peace.
It's a good place to live in. Reverend John Kome, a senior pastor, God's Kingdom Christian Center here in Lagos. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Merry Christmas, everyone. On behalf of the crew, we celebrate you for your commitment to our channel and the program in the course of this year. We're back tomorrow with more conversations. I am Nifemi Ogundoyi. Do have a great time.